The fiat money is broken, and it's hurting us. It's hurting people we care about. It's hurting our culture and our society. It's hurting our world. And I think Bitcoin's our best hope to fix it. Time is the ultimate limited resource. You only have so much time. You invest your time in work. You get value for that, and you try to store that value for the future, and they steal your value when they debase the currency. They absolutely are stealing from you your time, your life, your energy, your work, and that had to stop. You got to get honest money.
Welcome to the Bitcoin Fellowship, a show for doctors, professionals, and skeptics who are doing the math on a broken system. Every week, we talk Bitcoin, medicine, and the cost of staying asleep. I'm your co-host, Chris Adcock, an anesthesiologist who's found signal in the noise, and this show is all about Adam and I helping others do the same. In this week's episode, Adam and I have a great discussion with Jeff, a primary care doctor out of Dallas with 35 years of knowledge and clinical experience. We get into the evolution of primary care over his career, why the traditional financial system is failing, and ultimately why Bitcoin fixes this. It's a great discussion, and we're excited you're here. As always, this discussion may be awesome, but should never be considered financial or medical advice. Consult a professional, talk to your doctor, and do your own research. Thanks for joining. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode.
Going all in on something must take a lot of conviction.
How many chairs are you sitting on right now?
How many chairs are you sitting on right now? How many chairs are you sitting on right now?
One. Are you all in on the chair? You put on one pair of glasses, you've got one pair of AirPods, you're looking at me through one screen. That's one microphone. Are you trust it? Is that conviction? Is that conviction? How many chairs are you sitting on right now?
One.
Are you all in on the chair?
One, guys. Welcome back.
One chair.
That's
Episode
right,
3.
The Bitcoin Fellowship here, the Orange Pill Docs, Adam and Chris. And this is something we've looked forward to a long time. Episode 3, we're going to get some doctors in the house. We're just here to talk about Bitcoin and have a good time.
We are honored to welcome our first guest. Actually, my dad, Jeff Adcock. He's a primary care doctor also in the Texas area, Dallas area specifically, along with us. He got orange pilled recently. We're going to get into kind of the history of that, history of his medical career, history of his orange pill rabbit hole journey, and talk about some cool stuff, some news, all kind of stuff. So Jeff, anything you want to say to introduce yourself? Tell us about yourself. Welcome to the podcast.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. I've enjoyed the first 2 episodes, and I guess a little background. I'm 34 years in private practice in the same practice in the DFW area. So I've been blessed in that regard to have job stability and a great group of partners to work with, and staff and patients for 3.5 decades. It's been a great journey and a blessing to do what I love to do. Trained in Northern California, went to college, played some college football, did my medical school, all at UC Davis, University of California, Davis, close to Sacramento. Did my residency training in the Central Valley in Merced at a UC Davis affiliate. And then I moved here when I finished my training in 91, and I've been in practice since 91 here in the DFW area.
Very cool. And I've obviously lived through that career with you, so I'm excited to get to talk about it more. But before we get into what your career became, how did you get started with medicine? Like, what drew you into that field, and like what started that ball rolling for you?
So I had no family contact point for medicine. Nobody in my family. In fact, my family from Arkansas, my parents were the first generation to actually even go to college, and so I had no history or exposure personally. I didn't have any family friends or anything, but I just had a real love of biological science. I just really loved the biological sciences. That was my major, and I really enjoyed people. I'm kind of a one-on. I really enjoy teaching things one-on-one. I'm not a group person, but I really enjoy helping people one-on-one. And I thought about being a teacher, and I actually thought about being a preacher at one point. But I just kept having an interest in drawing to come back, and I wanted to be a doctor. And I just something inside me said that's what I really felt like I could do, enjoy and do well. And so I started exploring how to do that. I you know, busy playing football and a lot of things going on, and I finally went and got to the pre-med counseling office. They told me to forget about it. I'd never get in. That really ticked me off. So I said, well, heck with that. I'm going to get in just because you said that. And so I checked a book out from the library, how to study for the MCATs. I was a year behind schedule already. I didn't realize that. So I was a year off. I studied in the library, took my MCATs, did roll my MCATs, got a job in research at the University Medical Center for my year off so I could fill in the space with something relevant. Went and applied and got in. I got in at UC Davis in my first interview, and it's been history ever since then.
Sounds like proof of work.
Yeah.
Yeah. So everything they said would count against me. It's so interesting. You hear this said on a lot of when you get to the Bitcoin community, you start watching some of the podcasts. You hear about you can just do things, and you should go if you have an interest, go do it. Go check it out. And I had an interest, and they told me I couldn't do it. And the mainstream counselors, I didn't fit the mainstream mold, so they just gave me their advice. They weren't trying to be mean. They were trying to be honest. I get that. But actually, the fact that I was different made my application that much more interesting. When I went to go get interviewed, they just had all kinds of great questions because they didn't have very many college athletes who applied to medical school at the time. And a lot of people that applied to med school had a different academic background than I did. They had a more biochem and these subspecialties.
Research heavy and publications.
Yeah. I was just a straight biology major and didn't have any research in my portfolio, but I had a lot of other life experiences they found interesting. So, you can just do things. You should, if you really feel it's your interest, whatever it might be. I mean, what's the biggest blessing in life is if you work at something you love. If you work at what you love, you're never working, right?
Yeah.
And so it's worth taking the chance to check those things out. If you've got something in your heart that you really feel is interesting to you, check it out. Go do it. Put yourself out there. You can just do things. And that's always been true. But it is one of the sayings in the Bitcoin community that I think is a good, healthy saying is, man, go do it. Give it a try. Don't give up. Don't have any regrets.
Well, that's how we ended up making this podcast. That's why we're all on the virtual studio here today. So what exactly got you into family medicine? Because obviously by the time me and Adam were graduated and picking our residencies, family medicine is not a super, it's viewed as not a very lucrative. Yeah. It doesn't have a lot of interest of people, it's has that changed over time, or do you think that's always been, it's hard to get people to do primary care?
So one of the things about University of California, Davis, it was chartered in the 70s to be the primary care campus of the University of California medical system. So they had a charter to produce primary care. So there was an emphasis on getting the students exposed in a positive way to primary care, role models and mentors, which is super important, of course. And I just had a natural interest. My interest was in that area. Like I said, my interest was in biological science. I love biological sciences, and taking biological science and in trying to help people in general, but people in a more one-on-one relationship naturally fits with primary care. It's continuity of care. You get to know your patients over long. I have patients that I've known for over 30 years. I know 4 generations of their families. And that's just a unique opportunity. It's a blessing. You learn so much from continuity of relationship with anybody over time. And in healthcare, in primary care, what we're all about is prevention, right? What I have to offer people is I'm not a brain surgeon. I can help them start to understand how to improve their overall health, their holistic health, their social, cultural, personal, physical, mental, spiritual health over time, and in the context of their relationships and their families and stuff. So it just was an awesome opportunity. It just naturally had an interest to me, and it just. It's kind of one of those God things where I wound up in a school that was promoting primary care, because I know a lot of schools that primary care gets de-emphasized for all kinds of reasons. Research is what keeps these schools going, and they need to produce research people. For funding and all that stuff, I get that, but my school had a charter for primary care, and I was fortunate that we had a lot of good early mentors in primary care, and I went to a great residency training program, very very strong mentoring in that program. And then I came out and practiced in '91 and got hired by a group I was the 7th primary care doctor they hired. It was a group that it was a privately held group run by the doctors, and the senior partner took me under his wing and mentored me the first decade or so of my career, and it was amazing. He's amazing still to this day. An amazing person. Yeah.
And family practice is 3 years, correct?
Family practice is 3 years.
3 years
there
of
are
residency.
fellowships, 3 years of residency training. There are fellowships. There's a 1-year sports medicine. There's a 1-year geriatrics. There may be a couple other 1-year fellowships you can do after your 3 years if you choose to.
Got it. So, and we talked about, and you watched the first couple of episodes about opportunity cost, and that time, even an extra year, can really make a big difference once you're kind of on a Bitcoin standard.
Well, your first, yeah, go.
No, so what other, just comparatively, what other residencies are 3 years? It's EM, emergency medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics. That's what I was forgetting.
I'm not sure about emergency anymore. If it's,
I think emergency is 3.
I think it's 3, but there's fellowships for that too.
Yeah,
if you want.
Yeah, I think they all have fellowships. And
okay.
For a while when I started, OBGYN was 3.
It might be
4.
Did it go to 4?
I think it's 4, and most people actually do a fellowship in OB now. Like they either do like a gynecologic surgery specialty.
But I believe there were some 3-year programs for OB-GYN back when I started. But yeah, it's, opportunity cost is a big deal. I'm glad your first episode was about that, because I'm not sure all physicians even understand the opportunity cost of going to med school. I know most people that aren't in medicine don't get it. I know I learned a long time ago. I watched my classmates from high school, some of whom didn't even go to college, and they learned a trade like plumbing or became electricians, and then got their master certifications over time and started their own companies, and they're already retired. They're 10 years ahead of me, and the time value of money is legit. I mean, opportunity cost is legit. So in other words, you need to. I've always felt this, and I hope everyone is able to do this. But I mean, you should go into medicine because you believe it's a calling, because it's what you really want to do. Because you're sacrificing a lot on the front end. Now you have the opportunity, if you take it, to make it up on the back end, of course, because our earning power once we get out is obviously significant. But I see so many young doctors, and myself to a degree included, when you come out young, you don't live within your means. You've had delayed gratification so long, it's built up that you explode. You get out and finally get a real job, an adult job, and you take on all the debt you can get. You get the biggest house you can get, the fastest car you can get, the fastest woman you can get, the nicest whiskey you can get, and you're hosed. I mean, you'll never get out of that hole. You already made your hole deeper, and young doctors coming out these days have even more debt than doctors had in my era. I still came out with debt, but not to the degree that is happening now. So you just dug your hole deeper. And, the first rule is when you find yourself in a hole is stop digging.
Yeah. You got to start climbing. You got to stop digging.
You got to start climbing. You can't keep, you got to find it within yourself to delay gratification a little bit longer. And you're still going to get better gratification, even if you live within your means. Once your salary goes up, you can live a fine lifestyle for you and your family, but still live within your means and start putting your investments away, and then don't let someone else manage your money.
Gotcha.
I think that's a great point, Jeff. A lot of people, there's kind of 2 mindsets, right? Some people enjoy spending $1 and some people enjoy saving $1. And for a lot of people, it's the former. I think our whole goal has always been not only to introduce Bitcoin, but some of these finance principles, personal finance, is, making investing sexy. Like, I know Chris and I really enjoy just like at the end of the day, or sometimes like in between cases, going and looking up investments for the day and seeing how stuff's going on. Of course, we're all peered to the Bitcoin chart and checking out Bitcoin X, but really learning how that can compound and work for you, so you're not having to work continuously for the next 40, 50 years and just running on that hamster wheel, because the hamster wheel is only going to keep spinning faster. You're not going to be able to sprint any faster, especially in medicine. Right.
And ultimately, it'd be nice to go a lot slower and be able to balance, that work-life balance thing is critical for long-term mental, spiritual, and physical health. Burnout's a horrible thing, and if you can decelerate the hamster wheel by living within your means.
It's almost like a gear shift, right? Like it lets you just kind of put it in a more tolerable gear, so you can just ride it out for even further.
Right, and I'm guilty as charged. I didn't learn that the first year I had my real job, but over time it's settled in. And us old guys are always trying to pass down wisdom, quote unquote. And I heard all this too when I came out. My mentor that hired me gave me this advice, and you hear it and it percolates around, and finally, most of us learn it the hard way, and finally it settles in why that advice is out there, because it really is true. But anyway.
I sent you guys an outline and what we were going to talk about. I'm going to reorder it because we're still on the medicine career side of it. But Jeff, Dad, I don't know what to call you on this.
Jeff, Dad, that works.
Jeff, Dad.
Jeff, Dad.
What if you could talk to yourself like 1 year in your career? What would you tell yourself now? Like what if you go back in time and tell yourself a few things?
Well, I mean, the first thing is, at that point, I still needed to hear live within your means.
Yeah.
The second thing is, so the end of first year out in private practice for most of us, I know for me, residency is a butt kicking. It's a lot of injury inflicted in residency. A lot of your humanity gets scarred over, potentially during residency training. I know it did for us. For me, and reestablish your humanness, refine your joy in what you're doing. Remember what your priorities need to be and are supposed to be. Recenter all that stuff, and find your joy and your energy again, so you can be happily and properly motivated to and avoid burnout and mistakes and everything else. And be grateful, count your blessings. Don't focus on the negative. And so, those kinds of things. Because, I mean, after the first year out, for me, there are a lot of challenges. There's a lot of stress coming out, being a doctor in the real world, making real decisions that affect people's lives. And I felt totally inadequate. It's a very humbling experience. I mean, you went through all this training and education, but in the real world, fortunately, I did some moonlighting in residency and learned what it's like to own your own decisions. But it's a big responsibility, and there's a lot of moving parts. For me, I was starting a family, having kids, and all that other stuff going on like that, and struggling to understand private practice finances. We were running our own practice. I had no training in that. Fortunately, I had very wise older partners who understood it, trying to learn all that and participate in that. And then the personal finance side, it's just a lot of moving parts. And I'd also, if I could, I'd tell myself, hey, it's going to be okay. Hang in there, it's going to be okay.
Do you feel like you had imposter syndrome back then? Like,
yeah.
Does that ever go away?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was thinking about too, Chris.
It does. Yes, it does eventually go away, but it takes a long time. You still get flashbacks all the time. But the first several years is like, oh my God, seriously, what is this person trusting me for?
Yeah.
And back then, dudes, man, I'm an OG. We had no computers. I was doing paper charts. I had a question. I asked a partner and hoped they knew, or I pulled out a textbook that was already 5 years out of date.
Yeah.
That was it.
And you did crazy stuff that family practice docs don't do anymore. You delivered babies. You did ICU. You admitted patients.
We delivered babies, ICU, and ICU. We did sigmoidoscopies in the office. We did all kinds of minor surgeries in the office. Set broken bones. We did inpatient medicine, ER coverage. Yes, it was.
That's just for people in non-medicine. That's just unheard of anymore. Like, if that was still the requirement, 0 people would sign up to be family practice, I think, and that's why the requirements and expectations.
There are still some who. There are still some who, for instance, want to go into mission work. They know they got to be able to do some some stuff like take out a gallbladder appendix, deliver a baby, do a C-section because they're going to be in the middle of a third world nation. And there are some programs that are very geared that way still, but the majority of primary care is not that way anymore. I mean, the hospitalists are now pretty much everywhere, at least until you get well outside suburbs, and a lot less primary care delivering babies and doing ICU admissions and all that kind of stuff. I get it.
Yeah. Do you think so that technology has changed? You mentioned that you have so much more access to information if you have questions.
Man, back in the day, you hoped one of your senior partners had experience doing it. You hoped it was in the textbook. You'd call people. You'd call specialists.
Call a consult,
dial a friend. Can I dial a friend?
Yeah.
You call up one of the specialists you knew, and when you're first there, it's the specialist your partners recommend. You get to know your specialist over time. Yeah, and you do all that kind of stuff to find out. And it was there were moments. I mean, this day and age where you have AI, I can get on my phone with AI and have access to the world's knowledge banks instantaneously is awesome.
Yeah, we're going to talk AI in a little bit. We're going to finish up this kind of career medicine side, deep dive into Bitcoin and your story with Bitcoin, and then have a little back and forth on AI and medicine. What about the actual medicine has changed since you started your career? Has it changed a lot? Technology is obviously probably the biggest thing that's changed, if I had to guess. And then has the actual medicine we do different?
From a primary care standpoint, in general, our scope of practice has shrunk to almost all outpatient. And there are obviously, there's probably, I'm guessing 20% of primary care that are still out there in the rural parts of our country. I know some people I trained with are in rural areas doing C-sections and gallbladder still, but they're definitely a minority now. So that's part of it. Our scope of practice has changed as far as inpatient. We still do all ages. I mean, newborn to geriatrics, and we do routine gynecology and all that stuff. So I love that about it. I love not doing the same thing every visit. I love the variety. That's super good, and that's still there. What's changed? Technology, electronic health records are a big deal. That's a real upgrade, huge upgrade.
But there hasn't been there's not like a new wonder drug that wasn't around really.
Yeah, GLP-1s.
Okay.
Oh yeah, every drug you can name is new since I started 34 years ago. Other than penicillin.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, Prozac's still a new drug.
Okay.
The GLP-1s, the SGLT2s, all the ARBs for blood pressure. The ACE inhibitors were we didn't have ACE inhibitors when I first started. They were just coming out. We had diuretics and beta blockers. Yeah. And we had alpha 2, alpha 1 blockers and whatever. That's what we had. And we use digitalis all the time. We do IV theophylline.
This is all like I take all this for granted because this is all just since I've trained, which is crazy to think about. And we're one physician generation different.
Yeah, we're one data point in time, right? I think the funny thing is you think about like how long your career trajectory is, and like as human beings, 30 to 40 years of practicing is like a long time to you, but in the span of an actual like medical, it's not a lot.
I'm in medicine almost a half century, dudes. No, seriously. I started medicine almost a half century ago. And, open gallbladders. A gallbladder was a week in the hospital, 10 weeks off of work.
Wow. I
got patients having them on Friday now and playing golf on Sunday.
They're probably not supposed to be, but I'm sure they do.
No, but they do. And they do it fine. So it's a different, they're all kind, the advances in anesthesia, the anesthesia risk is a fraction of what it was when I started practice. It's cardiothoracic surgery, interventional cardiology, interventional radiology, putting coils in people's arteries in their brains and doing all this stuff. None of that stuff was happening when I started. It's a better world. I mean,
do you think
it's a better world?
So your role as primary care is identifying and managing chronic disease, if I had to put it in one sentence.
No,
do you think have we gotten better at that or worse?
My goal in primary care is prevention.
Yeah, okay. That's an even better answer.
No, it's prevention. Screw it. If they already got, it's like this whole thing about, they've been trying to push us a long time, these screening people's retinas and stuff. And I know that needs to be done. They need to go see the eye doctor early and take care of their retinas. But hell, if my patient's got retinopathy, I failed.
Yeah.
I failed. Yeah, I failed. If they'd been my patient long enough to get that retinopathy, I failed. I didn't find out they were diabetic, and and it's not just knowing what therapies they need, it's helping them do those therapies.
Right.
That's the biggest hurdle rate in primary care is, yeah, I can tell you what you need to do, but I can't make you do it. And I can't literally, nor should I try to make you do it. I need to be able to understand you, where you're coming from, what your issues are, and how can I help you get there where you can do the things you need to do to take care of yourself. And that's a process. I think the average primary care intervention to get someone to stop smoking is 12 interventions.
Wow.
Wow.
You know, so every time they come in, you talk about these things, and you accept where they're at. If you want to keep them, and you're building a relationship, that your hope in primary care is to build enough of a relationship that you can help them make the lifestyle modifications and do the things they need to do to prevent chronic disease and prevent the outcomes of chronic disease. Anyway, but yeah,
All
you
right.
certainly do manage it. Once it happens, you certainly manage it.
I'm going to cut us off and ask both of you guys a transition question, and then we're going to talk about Bitcoin, which is why most people that are going to find this podcast are here, because they're going to get bored of us talking shop with medicine.
Yeah, no
But
worries.
so I'll start with Jeff. What do you wish other specialties in medicine understood about family practice that they currently don't? Like, what is the most misunderstood thing, or if you could get a memo out to every other specialty?
Oh, well, I don't have a whole lot other than to say, I wish all my specialists understood how important their communication back to me is. When they close the loop with me in an efficient way, it really enhances the outcome for our patients. They're our patients. And so when they can get me, if they're on my EHR, that's the best way. But if they're not, if they can immediately get out just a short summary of what they did with that patient that was referred to them, get it back to me as soon as possible. So when I see that patient back again, I can pick up the ball and carry it forward with that patient. That would be the biggest deal to enhance the outcomes for our patients.
That's really good. Yeah, I think that that we have all this technology to communicate and have all this data, but we ironically, I think, communicate less, if that makes sense.
Yes, and
it's very siloed.
Yes, and it's one of the things electronic health records really do well. If the specialist is on my electronic health record, I am up to date immediately.
But it's not because they're reaching out to you; it's because you could just go find what they said.
Right.
Right.
So
that's a subtle difference, but there's a difference. Do you think that's true for anesthesia? Like, if I take care of one of your patients, which happened this last week, is there anything I need to tell you? And if everything went fine, you probably don't care, I would assume. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I would love to know if there's anything out of the ordinary you discovered. If you discovered obviously an arrhythmia, or they had an event like atrial fib, or if their blood pressure was poorly controlled, or anything like that, I need that feedback.
Gotcha.
And I need the surgeon's feedback. And most surgeons, because they value our referrals, are pretty decent about giving us feedback on how the surgery turned out. But because it's really awkward if the patient shows up after a procedure and I just have no
idea what happened. Yeah,
no idea what happened. But
okay, Adam, same question for you. Anything you wish other specialists knew about anesthesia?
Well, I mean,
without making a joke out of it, there's so many anesthesia
There's
jokes.
a lot of jokes. Yeah, I mean, I guess the big thing is a lot of surgeons just have no idea how anesthesia works. Actually, in my personal statement for residency applications, I talk about how like most surgeons just see anesthesia as like you put a quarter in the machine and like out spits the anesthesia, and that's like everything just happens. I remember being a high school student when I was first shadowing, and I was on a surgical rotation, and I was sitting at the back. Of course, the surgeon was paying no attention to me as a high school student, but the anesthesiologist pulled me aside. And you've got all the cords and all the monitors, and it just looks like a tangled mess. You've got the breathing tube, you've got all the meds out, all the machines, the gas is going, and the anesthesiologist is like sitting back in his chair, kind of like the pilot on the plane. And I look at him like, no one knows how any of this stuff works. And he goes, yeah, pretty much. And I was like, what happens if like you don't know what's going on, or like you need to fix something? He's like, it's me. I fix it. Like nobody else knows how to help. I was like, I think that summarizes anesthesia in a nutshell. And then I guess the other big thing, a lot of people make the joke that like anesthesiologists aren't personable, or they're just like the guys that don't want to talk to anybody. I kind of have a counter perspective on that. Is like, as anesthesiologists, most patients will recognize that we're the ones that like keep you alive in the surgery. And if something goes wrong, kind of we're at the helm. We're the ones that just like run the code and start fixing things and doing all this adjustments to keep you going. And you have to walk into a patient's room on the morning of surgery who you've never met, and oftentimes in about 5 minutes, explain a whole anesthetic, get that person to trust you, understand the risks and benefits of the anesthesia, and then basically feel okay with their life in your hands. So my whole argument is like, you got to be pretty personable in that situation and actually good about talking with patients. And I think the best anesthesiologists have that quality, and getting patients to, they have to be comfortable enough to reveal, I'm actually taking this medicine. I haven't told anybody, or I take this drug, or, X, Y, and Z. And that can oftentimes be the difference between like a successful anesthetic or things going wrong in the operating room, or maybe like postponing surgery, where often days, the surgeons nowadays just want to operate and really not think there's a problem, I've got to fix it. And on the anesthesia side, we're trying to encompass the whole, all the physiology of the patient, whether that's true biology or sometimes that's, what's going on in their head and some other problem that they want to talk about.
Yeah. So anesthesia, in that, to summarize what you said, is proof of work that no one really recognizes, right? And you can just do things like you just do it, and if it breaks, you have to fix it.
Yeah, it's just you at the top, right? You take complete responsibility for how you put the patient to sleep and how you wake them up. It's all on you. Yeah,
and you can do it all by yourself, but it's nice when you have friends, which is why me and Adam are in the same group.
Yeah, it's always nice. I think like any specialty, we kind of consult each other, and it's not uncommon for Chris and I to text each other like, hey, would you do this? And oftentimes Chris will ask me that. I'll be like, I probably wouldn't do it that way. We do things a little different. But
and then I say, well, I'm going to do it anyway just because you said that.
Yeah. Now I have to
know how it goes.
Yeah. And sometimes I get a text back that says that went really well. And then I get a text back the other times it's like, wouldn't recommend.
Wouldn't recommend that. Tried it. Wouldn't recommend. All right. We're going to shift gears. Big gear shift back to Bitcoin while we're all here. So Jeff, back to you on your orange pill journey. Like, tell us where it started for you. Like, when did you first hear about Bitcoin, and when did it really kind of grab your attention and send you down the rabbit hole?
So I that Bitcoin phrase of people get the Bitcoin they deserve. I like to think of that a little bit differently. I think you get the Bitcoin you need, and so in my journey, I became curious and receptive when I understood I had a need. And the first step to that is understanding that the current financial system is broken. And that happened, it really clicked in my brain late last year around November. I had heard of Bitcoin from you back when you were in college playing football at Cal. Because I think you heard about it in some of your classes. I think some of your teammates were interested in Bitcoin. I think you actually got some Bitcoin back then. I remember, I'm sure I said something like, oh, that's just magic money, or, oh, God, don't waste your money on that. Go buy a beer or something, for goodness sakes. I don't know.
You can't get drunk with your Bitcoin.
I probably said something goofy like that. But but the important point was it didn't leave my brain, because obviously Bitcoin kind of cycles in and out of the news. So my awareness of Bitcoin started back around 2013, 14. I kind of knew it was out there. From off and on, you hear about it. And then I did everything they told me to do. I started a 401k. I got my match. I did the low cost mutual funds that were index funds for the S&P 500. Basically, I tried to mix my ratio with an income fund, whatever they said I should do for my age, 70-30, 60-40, whatever. And I was cruising along pretty decent until the great financial crisis of 2008. And that was crushing. So you probably remember me. I've been talking, because my dad always talked about it, I've been talking my whole life. My dad started talking about when we went off the gold standard under Nixon. I can remember my dad being upset about that. And I didn't get it at age 12 when that happened, but I knew my dad was upset about it. But then my dad talked about it, and I started talking about it. We're spending so much money as a federal government. How can we spend money we don't have? I can't. That's not right. I can't do that. Where's this money coming from? And I've been harping on that. And me and one of my best partners, I practiced my office suite right next to his. For decades, we've been talking about the national debt. So I knew there was a problem. I didn't fully gather until the financial crisis when I saw the bailout starting to happen. So wait a minute, these guys caused the problem? And Lawrence Lepard in his book, The Big Print, really captures this. These guys caused the problem, and now my government is taking my tax dollars and bailing them out, and people I know that work hard are losing their homes.
Yeah, he opens that book talking about they're having a reunion and they're like celebrating that, and then he calls them out, which is just explains what's wrong with the whole system.
That was horrible. That was an awakening for me that the system was broken. I fully didn't understand why it was broken, but I knew it was really broken. I knew it was more than me just worried about deficit spending. And I personally experienced it. Obviously, my portfolio went in the toilet, and I did what all investors are prone to do. I sold at the bottom, got out, got super conservative the next decade. I was super conservative, really struggled to get myself to go back into the stock market, so I obviously underperformed. And then the COVID happened, and the COVID crash, I already knew I needed to get back in the market. And so that was a wonderful opportunity, horrible event, but for me to get all my funds back in the market. So I got proper market exposure again. But even then I knew still something wasn't right. This is not right. And that was like late 19, early 20 when the market went down.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm getting closer to retirement, running my numbers, and I'm starting to realize that, they've been lying to me. I'm doing everything they told me to do. I didn't do it perfectly, but I put even more than they told me, and blah, blah, blah. And my inner feeling about inflation that they're lying to me about is that I don't really feel comfortable. I'm going to have enough set aside to make sure my wife and I have a safe retirement. And I said, I've been working over 30 years. That's just so wrong. I was upset about that and trying to figure out where am I going to go, what I'm going to go. And then I think you brought up to me around Thanksgiving that you'd gotten back into Bitcoin. And so that started me down the rabbit hole at that point. I read the book, Bitcoin Standard. I started the Big Print. I read a great book, a short book that's really a great introduction called Thank God for Bitcoin. It's about 120 pages. And I started just consuming. So we're in such a great era. We have YouTube, we have X, we have artificial intelligence. You can learn efficiently about things that you want to learn about. So I just consumed a lot of hours of really good quality content on Bitcoin and what the problem with fiat currency is. And it clicked for me such to the point that by starting sometime in January, I started reallocating my portfolio inside of my 401k into Bitcoin. The ETS came. The awesome thing is last year the ETS came on, so I could actually get Bitcoin exposure within my 401k. And I moved all my money out to the self-directed part of my 401k, so I could actually direct my investments. And then I started repositioning my portfolio outside of my 401k. Bought my first Bitcoin through an exchange in probably February, maybe early March. And it's been as Michael Saylor says, there is no second best. And the more I got into it, the more I realized no second best. My allocation has dramatically changed in this year in the last 5-6 months.
So is it fair to say the scarcity aspect of Bitcoin, like being truly scarce, was what really opened the door?
The whole concept of fix the money, fix the world, fix the money, fix your problems. So the problem was the money. Fiat currency is an abomination. The central bank and the government are printing money and debasing our currency, decreasing the value. So they are stealing from all of us. We work hard. Time is our time is the ultimate limited resource. You only have so much time. You invest your time in work. You get value for that, and you try to store that value for the future. And they steal your value when they debase the currency. They absolutely are stealing from you your time, your life, your energy, your work, and that had to stop. You can't. That's first of all just wrong, which really rubs me the wrong way, obviously. And plus it's a setup for failure. So you got to get honest money. You got to get your financial situation so that you're storing your value. And for me, what appealed to me about Bitcoin, there's different. There's store of value, and there's It's a means of exchange, a method of exchange. It's a unit of account. All that's important. But for me, it was store of value. I needed somewhere where I could honestly trust that no one was going to steal the value of my time and my work. And Bitcoin's that, in my opinion, my understanding from all this, lots of time I've spent so far, is Bitcoin does that. It's honest money, and it's decentralized. The government can't print it. It's a scarce asset. It's totally, completely going to be limited, and it's going to appreciate in its purchasing power because it is a scarce resource, but also because it's competing against the fiat dollar, which is absolutely guaranteed, programmed to fail.
Yeah.
It's going to zero.
It's number go down technology.
Yeah, and so it's number go up versus number go down technology, and thank God I have the opportunity to transition to that in time. I believe in time to position myself and my wife for a secure retirement and to be a contributing member of society going forward. I mean, I don't, and plus it's Bitcoin is honest money is a great. Thank God for Bitcoin talks about it like honest money. It's like it is a much more honest money, and even those who don't invest in Bitcoin directly are going to benefit as Bitcoin becomes adopted.
100% agree.
Everyone will benefit from that. It will help protect the value of their time and work that they're trying to store. Anyway.
Yeah. Was there any roadblocks? Like the common things people, especially a generation above me and Adam, say, like even partners in our group that we talk to, is number one is too volatile, or like the government's going to ban it, or like it's only for criminal activity and buying drugs on Silk Road or something. Anything did that ever play a factor for you?
Yeah, initially that was always, all those little things are always floating around, and you kind of, for me, probably the biggest, hardest thing was trying to get some concept of how in the heck this stuff works. Digital scarcity, what does that even mean? And how do you not get hacked? And how is that secure? And how do I own that? And how do I spend that? And how do I invest in that? So there's the details of it, and all these the online and especially the online podcasts and educational things were just great for helping me start to get enough understanding and confidence in that to understand enough to be able to start the investment process. I'm still early in the process. I'm still on that journey. I think I've got the macro, the fiat bad money, Bitcoin good money thing
fiat
down.
bad, Bitcoin good.
Yeah,
orange coin good.
Yeah, orange coin good. I think I'm pretty solid on that. It's I'm still like today I watched a great podcast that Preston Pish did he interviewed a guy about Bitcoin 101. Understand what nodes do and what miners do and how they interact and what that means and how that is central, how that makes it decentralized and how it makes it secure and all these other really important things that I'm still trying to learn about and trying to develop the confidence to self-custody some of my Bitcoin. I mean, I've got it on a great exchange right now that I really trust. They're very transparent, proof of reserves and everything else.
You can name drop. It's River. I use River. I don't know if Adam uses River.
Yeah, River, and you recommended it to me, and I looked into it, and I've been thoroughly impressed. Their customer service is top notch, and it just works. And they are totally transparent in their proof of reserves and their company balance sheet, and
their customer service aspect is really, really good too. Like they highlight that. Yeah,
amazing. We were on a trip in Europe, and one of the friends of the family we were traveling with got interested. I was talking to my sisters actually about Bitcoin, and someone else was listening, and he said, "How do you do that? What's that about?" And we talked about it. He says, "Well, where can I buy some Bitcoin?" I said, "Well, you should do your own research, of course, and you need to develop your own convictions. Super important because it's very volatile. If you don't develop conviction, you're going to sell it when it goes down, and you'll lose money." But he said, "No, I've been thinking about it." Okay, well, I use River, and he got online that night, and we're in France, and so they wouldn't let him start his account. And I think I texted you, and you messaged their customer service and their COO, who you had an address for because of a conference you went to. And 30 minutes later, this guy's got his River account open.
Yeah, in a foreign country.
Because of their customer service.
Yeah.
You can just do things.
You can just do things.
And he set up pretty sure he set up a recurring buy, so he avoided the fees. And River's just been great for him, and I've been very impressed.
And the 3.8% paid in Bitcoin, I think, is a good on-ramp for people that are new to the space.
Yes, and the fact that I tell people it's held in an FDIC insured bank, your cash is, so it's federally protected, which is important from us old people. We're used to thinking of the federal insurance as being important, although it's going to fold. Anyway, nonetheless, it's held in an FDIC insured bank, but you get your Bitcoin in your account. They pay 3.78%. They don't just pay it in cash; they pay it in Bitcoin. Even better, they pay you in not a depreciating asset; they pay you in a appreciating asset. It's even better than 3.78. And heck, just use it as a savings account. If you buy a little tiny bit of Bitcoin and use it as your savings account or whatever. But all those things help. They're very smart in how they set it up. And I've been very impressed.
Yeah.
Made it very easy for me to begin that part of my Bitcoin reallocation journey.
Very cool. Adam, any follow-up questions, things to add?
Yeah, there's a lot there, and I'm trying to keep in my brain because I had a couple things I wanted to mention.
I got out the notebook. I'm punter Jeffing it. I'm like
there you
writing
go. I
things.
love it. You're taking notes. Jeff, one thing I just had to ask, and I wanted to make a point of this too. Like, you make this really good point that you have lived this. You're like the case study in my book for like, you did everything right, and you're a high earner, like a physician that has made a living, saved up appropriately, invested in the S&P, the index funds, the mutual funds, and you were getting to the point where like you're thinking about retirement, and you saw that still wasn't enough to keep up with inflation. And so that's what ultimately led you to a Bitcoin standard. I think that's the important point, because like, people don't realize you're a high earner. Like, imagine all the people that we work with, like the nursing staff, the MAs, the techs, like how do they stand a chance if like even the docs barely stand a chance at getting it right? That's the thing that's why kind of Chris and I came up with the podcast, is like medicine needs Bitcoin.
And not just doctors, all of medicine, and frankly, all people with a job that can commit to living within their means.
And it's one of those things. It's like salvation. You share it with people because you care about them. That's the same reason why you would share anything good, because you care about people. And you're exactly right. I feel 100% that way. And I talk to some of my staff about it, and partners about it, and family and friends about it. And it's super. That was part this whole thing, this whole inequity of how our government spends money and the national debt, and how that was burdening our society and taxation, and how it was fueling inflation, have been on me for a long time. And I ask myself that question all the time. It's like, I'm doing okay, and I get all that. I'm definitely a high earner, and we're living fine, and one way or the other we're going to be fine. But I'm thinking about those people who make a fraction of what I make. How in the heck are they making a rent payment or a house payment, a car payment, raising kids, and setting aside for retirement, and have any hope? I don't know.
I think the average person just takes on debt, which, when you look at the big statistics, that's what it shows.
Which fiat money encourages debt. We live in a debt. Fiat money is about debt and credit.
Yeah, the whole system is built upon debt.
Spend it today, because tomorrow it's not going to be worth anything. So you might as well borrow it now and pay it back in worthless dollars down the road. I mean, I got Bitcoin at the point of my need. I was at a pain point for personally and just solically. I mean, my soul knew that our culture we're struggling. The fiat money, all these books, all three of those books I mentioned, the Big Print by Lawrence Lepard, and the Bitcoin Standard by Safe. Yeah, and thank God for Bitcoin. They all make the same point. The fiat money is broken, and it's hurting. It's hurting us. It's hurting people we care about. It's hurting our culture and our society. It's hurting our world, and we got to fix it. And our hope is to fix it. And I think Bitcoin's our best hope to fix it. Certainly, that I can tell. And so it's really good to not have cognitive dissonance about an investment that's not only helping me, but I believe it's helping make a better world over time. That feels good to know that there are the secondary and tertiary benefits of helping in the Bitcoin adoption are really important and valid, I think. And it's going to help a lot of people I care about, whether they buy Bitcoin or not.
Yeah, there's a very spiritual thing in knowing your energy is going to the network that's helping everybody else, right? Your belief in this system. And that's, at the end of the day, that's also like, there's a ton of yield there.
Yes.
Because if you think if the collective good is a big pool, I'm coming up with this analogy off the top of my head, but if it's a big pool and you're pouring your energy in it, like Fiat has all these leaks, right? And all the energy you put in is just leaking out, and you're just pouring, and the level doesn't get any higher. With Bitcoin, there's no leakage aspect.
No,
It's an adiabatic system. Like heat doesn't enter or leave. So every energy
that's a
input
big
you put
word.
in, yeah, it's a big word. It's an SAT word. Every
Who said football players aren't smart?
every
Yeah, who said that?
like we always make these jokes because doctors are traditionally like top of their class or something. It's like, oh, did you homeschool? Are you an only child? One of one. Anyway, I lost my train of thought. But the energy you pour into the Bitcoin system, because there's no leaks, it's like an efficient system in that regard. Like you're bringing everyone up. Like rising tide lifts all
Yeah,
boats. You're bringing everybody up with you, which is a
yeah,
cool thing
yeah.
to experience and be a part of.
It is because it is important to remember. One of the Bitcoin sayings is touch grass, be based, be based. Remember, life is more important than Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Your faith, your family, your personal health is more important than Bitcoin. Bitcoin's a tool.
Yes.
It's a good tool, and when used properly, it has tremendous potential to help everybody. And much more, the way Bitcoin, because it's honest money, fiat just can't accomplish it. Even with good intentions, even well-meaning people using fiat are not, it's not going to work.
yeah, they're not going to make it,
They're not
unfortunately.
going to make it. And I mean, all you got to do is step back and look what's happened with fiat currency since we went off, accelerated since we went off the gold standard in 71. Look at the purchasing power of the dollar, look at the national debt, look at people, back when I grew up, a single income family could afford a home, a car, and kids. A single income family could afford, the average American working family could afford all that.
Yeah,
And
that's not true anymore.
Now 2 income families can't afford that.
Yeah.
I mean, you see that. I see that in y'all's generation. I see that. I see it in friends, family, my patients. People come in and working so hard. Both parents in the family working, and they can't own a home, and they have struggles raising their kids, and that's not right. That's not right. And fiat, our current system has made that happen. And that whole scene, the opening scene of the big print, when Larry Lepard raises his hand in that meeting you talked about, when they were celebrating
They fixed it.
How they fixed it with
bailout.
TARP and everything. Yeah.
The great bailout. They were celebrating the great bailout because they received all the money. It was the people on stage talk about the ones that got multi-billion-dollar bailouts. He raised his hand and said, that's wrong. And he's right. That's wrong.
Yeah. Do you think, because obviously everything you said on this podcast so far, I've grown up with you. You've been very vocal about, macroeconomics. Not that we called it that, but just the deficit spending, and the government just doesn't seem to ever get it right. People know you to be outspoken about that. Do you think that has been how you orange pill people? Because now they see a change in you, or like, what is that not related at all? Am I just completely biased?
I don't know. I think because I've always voiced some of my concerns about macroeconomic issues, taxation, inflation, deficit spending, that people that I know have known me over time know that it's something I pay attention to.
Right.
So maybe that gives me a little
much
bit
more
of
eloquent way of doing the question I tried to ask you.
It gives me a little bit of credibility that if I've had a paradigm shift in how I think about cryptocurrency, about Bitcoin, that maybe that's one more reason they should think about it. I think that they are in different stages of discovering their own point of need.
Yeah.
So obviously, I mean, Saylor talks about Saylor, the CEO or whatever he is now of MicroStrategy formerly, talks about this all the time. Some people just don't need Bitcoin. They're multi-billionaires. It's working. Fiat's working for them. They're right next to the printer. So those people, okay, fine. They're going to make it without Bitcoin. But there's the vast majority of us we're in I think the last stages of a major inflection point for really major pain coming.
Yeah.
Like Lynn Alden says, nothing stops this train, and this fiat currency train that our government's driving is going off a cliff.
Yeah.
And I'd like not to be on that train. I'd like for people I care about not to be on that train when it goes over the cliff.
There's an orange parachute.
We all need it.
Yeah. Do you think that I guess my ultimate question is you've orange pilled a lot of people, even though you're very new to the rabbit hole, which is just an awesome phenomenon to watch. Do you feel like it's because people that are in your career stage and life stage are talking about retirement and talking about money, or are you actively seeking out these people to go tell them about Bitcoin?
No, it comes up organically in the context of what a relationship it is, friend, family, coworker. It comes up organically, and because I think I've already talked about economics, it's not like I, out of the blue talk about the debt, the national debt or something, because they've heard me rant about that for a long time. You know what I mean? There's a context there. There's a context that's already been built, and they've seen a lot of the things. Finally, the debt got so big that even the people that were initially not listening to me about it are going, 37 trillion. That's a lot of money, isn't it?
That's a big number.
That's a big number. Yeah, it is. and they're feeling it in inflation and stagflation. And I think the point of pain is the pain points are being heightened for people, and they're starting to be open to their need for something different. I think just like I was when you brought it up to me again in last November around Thanksgiving time, when you brought up Bitcoin one more time, and my brain kind of went, I'm kind of ready to hear about that. I'm kind of clearly what's happening ain't working. I've now really come to that conclusion. And the first step for me was letting people like the Bitcoin Standard and the big print help me understand how broken fiat money, the fiat system is. And then you're ready to hear, okay, what's the solution?
Absolutely.
Is there a solution? What's the solution?
Yeah. Adam, what about you? Because you're much more known as the Bitcoin doc in our group, in our circle of surgeons, than I am. Everyone kind of, we hang out enough that it rubs off on me, and I get like guilt by association. But like anesthesia, we work solo, like we're in parallel, but we're in our own ORs doing our own thing. So what is your orange pill?
Like spiel?
Yeah. What's your spiel? Like, how do you bring it up? Like people ask you about it because they know that's your thing, or how do you go about it?
I think most of the people in our group know that I find a way to end some kind of conversation into Bitcoin. Sure enough, my fiance knows that and is tired of me talking about it at home. But I think it's just that like Jeff kind of alludes to, people start to feel this stuff.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can feel it palpably every single day when you're like, man, why is this so expensive? Or like you get your paycheck and you see your bills and you're like, God, that's a lot that I'm not going to have left. I'm going to pay this much. I'm only going to have this much left. This vacation is how much? And so I think even working around like these high income earners and other anesthesiologists, they see us and they're like, well, how come you guys are living like this and like saving up and not, they're wondering why we're not keeping up with the Joneses and those kind of things that like some of them others have. Yeah. And that kind of lends itself to the conversation. And then I start talking about, compound annual growth rate and, the asymmetric trade that is Bitcoin, that is strategy, some of these Bitcoin treasury companies, and talking about how like the most important thing to me is my time. And this is the best way that I can kind of save my time. And I try to relate to them on that basis, and just seeing how some of these guys will go spend X number of dollars on a new car when they just get out. And I'm like, that's not going to be there forever. You're just going to have to keep doing that. And you've got all these other expenses to keep up with. I don't want that stress. I think that's how I relate. We have enough stress, especially on like the anesthesia side, being, in surgery all the time, and no surgeon is ever happy, and patients always have something wrong. There's always more call. There's always more cases. It's like, I don't want to be like some of these older partners that I have that are just like always taking call. I want to spend time with my family. Like Jeff alluded to, the one resource that's more valuable than Bitcoin is your time. Yeah. Like with your loved ones and doing the hobbies you like to do. And Bitcoin is a tool to get to that.
Right. Yeah, I think I've taken a similar approach. Like I did public health training, so you kind of zoom out. Like I did medicine and then did public health at the end of it. So you kind of Western medicine especially gets a lot of treating end result problems. And good docs, I think, naturally start looking upstream and talk about prevention, like you talked about, Jeff. public health kind of forces you to take that approach to medicine, which was useful, and I'm glad I did the whole degree, even though I don't use it on a day-to-day basis. But it gets back to the whole thing that Bitcoin fixes this. Like, whatever comes up in day-to-day conversation, usually people are griping about stuff, right? And like most of the problems people gripe about, Bitcoin fixes. If you zoom out enough, it doesn't fix the Cowboys. Like the Cowboys are still not. They still have their own issues.
Fiat through
Maybe it might help. I don't know. If you start paying people in Bitcoin, maybe we get some new talent. But every other real life problem that real life people talk about, if you're willing to, you can connect it back to Bitcoin. And the deeper you're on the rabbit hole, the easier it is that is to do, right? Like bad money, it makes you unhealthy. It makes you mentally unhealthy. It makes the food worse. It makes your medicine worse. It makes everything worse.
That's a great point, Chris. Like, I think when you boil down to it, unfortunately, everything in life comes down to the money, right? Like the core thing. And that's part like of a human, the whole reason that money was invented is so that we could like expand as a society, right? And barter and trade for goods, one person's time in exchange for another, right? And so I think when you start to inherently devalue that with fiat and at the rate of money printing that we now have, you're devaluing like that core tenet of society. Right. And that's why Bitcoin fixes all this stuff, is because inherently it is fixing that core tenet of like one human being's exchange to another. Right. And that's why it can be brought up in all these different conversations.
100%. I think we have one partner that is like, really think I had a conversation with them. You think Bitcoin really fixes all these different things? I'm like, yeah, I really do. Like, I don't think fiat started out this way. I think that just insidiously you get a few bad apples, bad actors that really leverage and don't have empathy or sympathy, and maybe they're sociopaths. They just don't care about other people, and then they push that window a little bit further and a little bit further,
just keeps growing
a little bit further, and then you wake up in 50 years and like everything's doubled in price, if not more than that. So I don't think that this whole credit-based system came out of the gate with these intentions, but it's definitely where we are now and where we are today.
Balloon to this, right? I think Jack Mallers, who's pretty outspoken about a lot of this stuff, does a really good job of tying in some of it, and he gives great examples of like how broken the system is through fiat, right? Like if you think about millennials, like he had in that most recent presentation at Bitcoin conference in Prague, he starts talking about like the suicide rates and the death rates and the rate of people getting married later and later and having less kids, right? All of this is stemming from broken money, and it really is that Bitcoin fixes this. Like these core principles of like what keeps society together are moving further and further and further out on the risk curve. And it's like, we don't want to move that trajectory. We have to reset the whole system. And this whole Keynesian economics model that's based on like, some of these principles is based not in science and math. And that's what I think Saylor does such a good job of, is he relates all this back into finances, like, and tenets through math and science. And that's what Bitcoin is. It's all math and science.
Yeah. I agree.
It's if you having lived in the generation where a single income family could have a stay-at-home parent to help to raise the kids and manage the family and have a home and a car and good public schools, was a different era. The difference now, the amount of stress families are under now just to stay afloat is, I credit them tremendously that they do as well as they do with that amount of stress.
Yeah.
It's just, and this is a result of what we're doing with fiat currency. The debasement of the currency and the inflation is crushing that part of our society. Now, the people that are closest to the source of the money are doing awesome.
Yeah,
and the people in my generation who owned assets, because this is asset, when you debase the currency, assets inflate. The people on my side, the boomers, if you want to call them that, who bought their homes and such, they're seeing a tremendous asset appreciation in those things. Not because those things are gotten better, it's because money has gotten worse. The value of money has gone down so rapidly that how many fiat dollars it takes to buy your home has gone way up. But you feel like it, But nonetheless, people on the other side of that can't even get a home. They can't get into the asset base to experience at least what there is to offer from fiat, which is the asset appreciation. They can't even get that, and so that is crushing. So I watch family and friends and patients that I know on that other side of the asset equation being crushed by it. It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
So you're saying it was only 37 jelly beans for your first house and not 36?
My parents bought their first home in Little Rock, Arkansas for less than $13,000.
It's crazy.
3-bedroom, 2-bath home for less than $13,000.
Oh
my
my
dad
gosh.
was the only earner at the time. He was a lieutenant in the Army. I think his pay was $1,100 a month, maybe less. He raised a family, had 2 cars, had a home. Yeah, that don't happen anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Our current soldiers are living off of welfare.
Yeah.
The soldiers in the Army right now get food stamps.
Yeah. I would want to know someone that has heard. There's a subset of people that hear about Bitcoin and stay skeptics. I want to know what their take is on that. Right.
Yeah.
I haven't heard a great argument of why, an acceptable reason why I think that has happened, like what their explanation is for it and why they think we should just accept that as being okay. Because I think we all agree that's not acceptable. And that's
I
why
think
we're
the more
here.
time you get and actually like spending time and learning about Bitcoin and doing the proof of work, those people always come out the other end as 100% Bitcoiners. It's never the other way around, right? It's the people that don't study and just make these like judgments about it without having done any of the research. Those are the ones that don't get it. And those are the most frustrating ones to talk to. And like, I try my best to try and give everybody like a fair shot and orange pill them, because like we talked about, like we're trying to help people get a life raft, and we understand that this is the way out. Those ones are the ones like that just are so cavalier in like their way of thinking, and they know, oh, I'm right, you're wrong, even though I don't understand anything about it. Those are the ones that are the most headaches in talking to.
Yeah. You got to plant the seeds, and like you can't make the seeds grow by keep digging the hole up and like tilling the dirt. Like at some point you just have to let it percolate and like germinate and grow.
Right. Our responsibility is to cast out the seeds, and the Bible makes the point that the soil the seed lands on is not our choice, and it's going to happen. It's going to germinate or not.
Yeah.
And you can help it along and do what you can do, but you certainly, the old saying, you can lead a horse to water, can't make them drink it. I don't understand. I don't know why you can lead some people up to it, and some people,
because their need doesn't
people
meet.
don't.
It doesn't
There's
match.
but there's even people who have a need that I don't know if they haven't acknowledged their need or they don't understand that they have a need. But there are people that definitely have a need that still don't get it. So it's a wonderful mystery of humanness.
Yeah.
And it's not just around honest money. It's about all kinds of things. In primary care, I see all the time about simple things like blood pressure. People walk in and they just will not wrap their minds around the fact that their blood pressure, because they feel fine, is killing them.
Right.
Yeah, silent.
I feel fine. Like, I know, Mr. Smith, I know you feel fine. I honestly, I know you feel fine. 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're not going to feel fine, and there's no do-overs. There is no do-overs.
All right, restarting. We're talking about what actually kills Americans. The top killers are all chronic disease: heart disease, cancer, stroke, diabetes, chronic lung disease, and then overdose and accidents are up there too. That's contrasted with, and the point I was getting to is, so like Isomorphic Labs, which I think is a spinoff of Google, one of their AI labs, and they raised like $600 million and have $3 billion pledged for these boutique per patient cancer drugs that treat your individual cancer, which is, you can't never say that's a bad thing. Like treating people's cancer is good.
Well,
but it's a huge.
But let's go back to y'all's original podcast, the opportunity cost.
Yeah.
If I'm doing that instead of preventing those cancers, a whole lot of cancer is preventable.
Right.
People act like cancer is not a preventable disease, but not all of it, but a lot of it, a significant portion of it is preventable. It's lifestyle related.
Yeah. Or if we can shift that, if my argument as a public health skew on it is if we can spend that money to use AI to get primary prevention or like early detection of some of these chronic diseases.
Yeah, primary prevention and early detection are valuable investments.
Yeah. So I was just interested in what y'all think. Is that news came out this last week. Do you think that we'll continue to see that? Are these big boutique names going to keep? I mean, Google's not a boutique name, but they're doing a very niche thing. Are we going to keep seeing? Yeah. We're going to keep seeing money poured into niche things because that helps your quarterly earnings.
Because that's where venture capital wants to go. They want the bang for their buck. They want the quick return. It's the whole Fiat mindset, just like you alluded to. It's not the long game, low time preference, honest money time set.
Yeah. Like if you could use AI to educate people on their blood pressure meds, you would save a lot more quality years and quality lives.
Absolutely.
then
You could
what?
use, if you could develop AI related resources that would get people to control their blood pressure, blood sugar, and stop smoking and not abuse substances, your returns on that over time would be tremendous.
Yeah.
Right?
I-
And then drugs like GLP-1s, for instance, no drug's perfect, but GLP-1s prevent all that stuff.
yeah.
You can't know everything you name. They reduce the risk. They reduce the risk of cancer because they reduce obesity, diabetes, vascular disease. They protect your brain. They reduce the risk of dementia. They reduce the risk of heart failure. Reduce the risk of dialysis. Reduce the risk of blindness. You can't.
Yeah.
We could spend days talking about what GLP-1s could do used properly.
Is that the biggest? Is that the biggest technology, biggest change, biggest news, biggest thing in primary care, in your opinion?
Right now,
Yeah.
yeah.
In the last 5 years?
Well, I would place that. So if I was going to allocate resources, I would place that after what we first talked about, developing the resources to have healthier food and encourage people in healthy lifestyles and encourage people to prevent these things. First, prevent hypertension. Once you get it, control it.
The answer is never a drug, right? That's never the first answer. Is like a medication,
not the first answer.
Intervention or drug prevention is the first.
I think the best drug currently available, bang for the buck, once you break through the primary prevention and everything, would be right now the GLP-1s used appropriately.
Yeah. What's crazy and how broken the system is, the medical system and insurance system, is like my insurance. I'm on a GLP-1. I've not, anyone that's met me has noticed I've lost weight, and I talk about it. My insurance just dropped my preferred GLP-1, and it's been like I had a doctor's appointment this week trying to like work with my doctor about what prior authorizations, how much hoops can we jump through to get the one that works with less side effects. How can I get that with my insurance that I pay premium for? And like
that's where AI would help you in your primary care. If you could turn that over to AI and say, bug this insurance company
until they give in. Yeah, I thought we had an out because they said they only approved like one that was approved for diabetes, but they said if you have a prior auth, we might approve it, but that didn't work either. So
so this whole Fiat mindset, their time preference is so wrong. Yeah. If they had a long time preference on really caring about their patients and what the long-term return would be on GLP-1 therapy, they'd
give it to you for free.
For free. Properly. I mean, you would need to have an appropriate indication for it. And obviously, it needs to be medically managed. But nonetheless, once you qualified for it medically, they would cover it for free because their return on that, every dollar they invest in the GLP-1 is going to save them, I don't know, 100-fold on the back end. Someone did the numbers early on last year, and their calculated savings over 10 years for the national healthcare budget, $10 trillion.
Oh my gosh.
$10 trillion.
Over how long?
10 years.
Wow.
It's wild.
That's better than Doge.
Yeah. If you want to bend the curve on healthcare cost,
we need to make a meme of Elon with a little syringe, not a chainsaw.
With
do
the fat
primary
chest.
prevention correctly and do GLP-1s correctly and let RFK fix the food.
And what's crazy is, so Adam studied economics, I studied business as our undergrad, and if you make everyone more healthy, they get more productive, and there's so many.
That was included in the $10 trillion.
Oh, that was included. Okay.
Yes. So the overall savings to the system was they estimated $10 trillion, and part of that was increased productivity because of all the chronic diseases you prevented. Hey, people just being overweight before they get a chronic disease are less productive.
Yeah.
And the other big thing I was saying, I'll shut up, is people need to recognize the disease model of obesity.
Yeah.
People want to say it's a willpower issue, just like they want to say alcoholism is a willpower issue. It's a disease.
Yeah.
You can have the most positive impact on both those problems by treating them like a disease. And anyway, I'll shut up now.
That's true. I 100% agree. So y'all's answers on are we going to keep seeing this money flow in AI into like niche things, I think is what I expected you guys to say. I agree. I think we're going to continue seeing that. I disagree that that's the right way we should take it. And now that we're talking about it, I think it's going to take a Bitcoiner with a business and medical background and public health background to have the time preference to start using AI for these things. Yeah. Maybe I'm wrong, but.
And the insurance model, because it's fiat based, is broken.
Yeah.
The incentives we just outlined in 2 minutes are pretty obvious. Why don't the insurance companies understand their long-term lifetime savings by using a medicine like a GLP-1 properly and making it available
I
to?
don't know, because that seems like an actuarial type of, like,
It's
you could
an
you could get a
actuarial.
number, you could put that to paper and get a number.
Yes, and
So
they
are
do.
they?
My only hope is this: when bariatric surgery came out, which is not as good as GLP-1, but it has a lot of benefit for the same reasons, they didn't cover it, but now they cover it.
Yeah.
A lot more insurances cover bariatric surgery than GLP-1s,
Which is
and
wild.
that's a $50,000 front end investment that they
Yeah.
realize they're getting their money back on.
With a pretty high failure rate. Like,
Yeah, compared
not that
to
GLPs are perfect, but
no, they're not. And actually, the smart bariatric surgeons are using GLPs with their surgery, and then talk about gangbusters.
yeah.
Talk about saving people's lives. Talk about increased productivity.
For sure.
Anyway,
So if you left your day job and we're gonna get a big lump of capital to improve the medical system, what would you do, Adam?
A big lump of capital. I've always kind of joked about this. Is like if I ever did very well, I think the biggest way is just like public knowledge, right? Like instead of commercials for fast food and like another drug, it's like here's a commercial about high blood pressure or diabetes, and this is why it's bad for you, and this is what it's doing to you, even you don't feel it, and this is how it increases your risk of all these things. Like I'd like to think the vast majority of people just like are never told this stuff and just never understand it, and just having that as like public information, and having access to that resource makes, if you're well informed, you're going to make better decisions, right? And there's no incentive for anybody to do that, right? Like other than our system benefiting people taking care of each other. I can't picture some private equity company putting that out there, but if that's always what I've talked about, is just knowledge, right? You understanding, oh, this is why high blood pressure is bad.
Yeah, that's cool. I think that would be useful.
that's a great idea. Very great idea.
What do you think, Jeff?
Well, I vote for him.
Okay. Ditto.
I vote for him. He's exactly right. That would talk about getting long-term benefit for us. Public, really good, engaging public education around lifestyle choices about and why blood pressure is important, why blood sugar is important, why your weight's important, why not being sedentary is important. Done creatively and engagingly, and the same with Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Why is Bitcoin important? Why is honest money important? All those things would be huge returns over time for your investment.
I knew I was going to find a way to relate this back to Bitcoin. Jeff already did that for me, which is awesome. But basically, the way I look at it, and I think I can't remember if it's Larry or Safedine that makes this comment, but fiat has this complete misallocation of resources, right? And the whole credit-based fiat system, all this money is funneling to all these places where it's inefficient. And we all see that throughout our everyday lives and in medicine. If you move healthcare and just like everyday life to a Bitcoin standard, you have time to start focusing on these other things and improve. There's this efficient allocation of capital necessarily because there's a finite amount and there's ultimate scarcity. You get all that in place. There's leftovers there that you can use for this public health, public good type of stuff, right? Where you can have the extra resources to go out and educate people. I mean, look at the Saylor Foundation. That's all Saylor ever talks about is just like public knowledge. He wants just to educate people who didn't have as much opportunity as we did.
Yeah, he's like basically making college free for people that aren't aware. Like you can do college courses for free. Every time I check on it, I check it every 6 months probably because I'm secretly thinking about having my kids do that for college. But he has more and more university systems that have signed up to agree to honor those credits. So you can get all of your gen ed done online for free from Saylor. It's Saylor Foundation or Saylor University. And then they transfer to like in Texas, like Texas A&M recognizes it. Like it's real names.
Oh, wow,
it's not just like, it's not like little online only schools. It's like real state run university systems. So I think that's a cool deal.
Anybody that learned from Saylor, I would hire.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
I think if I had the same opportunity, like a big lump of capital, what would I do in the healthcare space? I think empowering people to have their own information. Like EMRs are great, but they don't talk to each other, and it's always locked, siloed within your system. And I think cryptography actually does play a role in this. Like if you have a public-private key pair and make it easy to use, that your data goes with you, and like you bring whatever, your hardware wallet that plugs into each time you go to the doctor. That number one, people get educated on what their actual healthcare data looks like, And number two, like it reduces inefficiencies and drag between systems. Because how much, Adam, like for day of surgery, how many labs are repeated? Because
Oh man,
we
and
can't
even
find it.
then, like you have to go out of your way to get like the nurse not to draw the lab that like the surgeon
Yeah.
already ordered, and that that's like a wasted money, and then they got to waste time because they want you to wait for the lab to come back that was unnecessarily, or like an EKG. Like I think you talk to any doctor, and 100% of those doctors are going to say there's way too many lab tests and diagnostic tests that we run.
Yeah. So I think that's what I would do. It's not never going to get funded without someone being philanthropic, because there's obviously money being made by keeping it siloed. But
that's a good point. Well, but that's why we're talking about Bitcoin, right? That would fix that. Yeah. Like you wouldn't have this unnecessary, like there wouldn't be competing interests. It would just be like an efficient allocation.
Yeah. So standardizing the data, I think would be cool. All right. Yeah. We're at an hour and a half almost. We should probably start wrapping it up. Let's see what I had for closing. I had a lightning round question.
Yeah, do your lightning round.
We'll start with favorite Bitcoin book or podcast.
The True North is my favorite.
Love it.
Yeah, True North. I have a whole list of them, but that's top of the list.
You have to show your coffee mug.
Well, this is before they changed their.
It's an OG.
The OG.
It is an OG. Chris, you want to throw in
the value added on that podcast is worth every second you watch it.
Yeah.
This is a good time for you to throw in the X handle, Chris.
Oh, Hunter Jeff.
Yeah.
We named you. We helped you spin up your Twitter profile and named you Hunter Jeff after Punter Jeff.
Yep.
Hopefully he watches this and likes it. It'd be great.
Hopefully.
He told me he'd be on the podcast one day. I told him that I would make sure it was legitimate before we invited him to do that.
That whole crew they got together is just phenomenal. I learned so much from those guys, and yeah, awesome stuff. There's a bunch of them.
Yeah,
that are so high quality and just so much so helpful.
Yeah, Adam.
I think the one I have to go to is The Big Print by Larry Lepard. Like, I just think that's such a good framework to orange pill people. I mean, this is what Orange Pill Docs, the Bitcoin Fellowship, right? This is what this is all about, is trying to get people to see through the, unplug and have a chance of the way out before the next big print happens.
Yeah.
And seeing, like Jeff alluded earlier, you have to know what the problem is before you understand the solution. Like, I'm not going to just give you this, here's this medicine, which is Bitcoin, the orange pill, if you don't understand what your issue is, what your, what disease you have.
With because you're not going to take it if you don't understand.
Yeah, you have to understand the disease, and the disease is fiat and the central bank money printing, and that inflation is just slowly eating away at everything. And Larry does such a good job of frameworking that. Like, I have so many friends and partners that have read that book now, and they're like, "Oh man, I didn't even consider any of this. And no one touched it." Exactly, right? They don't want you to know this kind of stuff. And through that, then they start having the conversation with you about, so tell me more about this Bitcoin thing.
Yeah. I think for me, if I could have one podcast for the rest of the time, it'd probably be the True North crew, because I love what they bring to the table. Just to not repeat an answer, I think all their spinoffs are actually really useful. Like Tim Kotzman's Bitcoin Treasuries podcast, he's did like a 14-hour straight run of interviews. He's gonna do 24 hours or 21 hours like in August or something. That guy's an animal. He's the hardest working guy in Bitcoin.
Tim, if you need an anesthesiologist to throw an IV and hydrate you for the next one.
We'll be the mobile IV clinic.
We got you.
I'd love to do that. And then like Hurdle Rate podcast with Jeff and Matt and Ben and Tim. Those are my favorites right now.
Matt, what's Matt's last name?
Matt Cole. Yeah.
He's excellent too.
Yeah. All right. Biggest financial win or mistake? Keeping it politically correct.
Well, so I'll take the mistake. Was even back when I was still in Fiat, selling at the bottom, at the very bottom of the crash in 08.
Yeah.
I could have sold somewhere above that, but I didn't.
Yeah. My biggest mistake was I thought I could spin up an Amazon business and took out a personal loan and paid a consulting thing to do it, and it was truly too good to be true, but I was sitting at home bored in COVID and convinced myself it was a good idea. I mean, I did know enough that I knew, okay, if this is a scam, this is the total max out I'm going to owe. And it matched my time horizon of getting a real job. and I had less debt because I played college sports and all that whole thing. That's my biggest mistake. But the biggest win is I basically gave up halfway through. Like I got it off the ground and realized it was not
You
what it
punted
was.
early.
I punted into Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's a good
So
punt.
biggest win is I took that personal loan, what was left of it that I hadn't lost to the scam, basically. And that was my first real Bitcoin purchase.
You tried to beat the hurdle rate being Bitcoin, but then you just finally acknowledged early enough to be like, okay, this is the
1000%.
hurdle rate.
If you can't beat them, buy them.
Yeah.
Join them. That's right. Well, I don't know that I got too off the rails as far as purchasing. I got kind of lucky when I got orange pilled, like towards the middle of residency, and kind of started doing all the research into it and got into pretty heavy. I think the other like hobby, like investing hobby, I'd say I'd have is like my dad and I grew up opening sports cards together, like sports memorabilia, football and baseball cards, and that was kind of the way we shared time. And we still do that. And there was a point in time when I was trying to buy that stuff and like hold certain sealed product for a set number of years because it goes up in value and has like a rare rookie in it, and there's just so much like luck that goes into that. So I didn't lose a lot of money. I kind of like broke even, but at the same time I was like, this is not like why am I investing in like sports cards, and like collectibles? It's because like I was trying to beat the fiat system and not understanding that was a way of doing it. It's like trying to gamble out of the system. Yeah. And so I didn't necessarily lose a lot, but like it forced me to open my eyes and be like, this is not how you should like store your wealth. It's like sports cards. And my fiance also got kind of annoyed that I had a bunch of boxes of like unopened sports cards in an extra room.
What about your NFT collection? I know you were doing that for a little while.
Yeah, I was doing that. I mean, I think everybody goes, that's another thing when I'm orange pilling people is I try to get them. I think most people, when they get into crypto, kind of go through the same arc, right? They see Bitcoin, they invest in Bitcoin, they make some money, and then they're like, oh, wow, look at all these other shiny objects, all these other crypto that can make even higher returns. And so then they go down that route, and then we go into a bear market and they just get absolutely annihilated. And they either like exit or like, they don't see the safest point is to get back to Bitcoin and just like understand there's Bitcoin and there's crypto and they're not the same thing. Yeah. And so I try to educate people on that. I got kind of lucky. I cut a lot of my like ETH in the last bull market and flipped over to mostly Bitcoin only. And have been fortunate to kind of go down that rabbit hole and become more of like a maxi between strategy and Bitcoin and some.
So you're not a triple maxi?
I'm not. I'm triple maxi enough that very well that I drive the same Jeep from high school that has no AC in it for the last 2 summers in Dallas, Texas heat, and I do that to stack more Bitcoin. And you can compare that to some of the other partners that we have. Eventually, I'll get a new car here at some point.
We've talked about your alt addiction and what your plans are, and you have very specific plans for that.
I do have.
So I trust you. I'm gonna keep you on that though. Like I'm not gonna let you slip.
I do have a small bag that's like a very small part of my net worth that's in Solana, and the whole play has been that I have a wedding upcoming here in February, and the goal is that Solana will pay for the wedding because I'm not selling my Bitcoin or.
You better get those limit orders in and capture that.
They're sitting there. They're ready. They're ready.
Good. Did everybody go? Biggest win mistake? I think we did. All right. Daily habit that keeps you sharp. Lightning round.
I'll go first since you guys have gone first on the others. I think I try to go for runs most every day, every other day if I can, for at least a couple miles, 3 to 4 miles. And funny enough, I'm normally listening to True North or another podcast during those runs, and I think that's when I come up with my sharpest ideas and get those like creative juices flowing. It kind of opens my brain up too. So I think that's not only health building, but kind of like takes the stress away from everyday life because you're focused on running. That lets you just like kind of think about other stuff and be open to like other ideas about Bitcoin and what it's doing to the system.
Yeah. Jeff?
So my routine is a quiet time in the morning. I get up early. I'm old, so I wake up early anyway, which actually is so much better than not waking up early. But nonetheless, get up early, and I set aside the first 15, 20 plus minutes just to be quiet, think about life and the day and my relationships, and try to kind of get myself gathered, centered, and calm to start the day and have a kind of formulate a game plan during that quiet time. So that's a daily ritual that I've been doing for years now that I certainly feel has helped me have a more balanced, productive, happier life.
I think that's important. And that's part of what I was going to say too, is me and my dad talked about this more offline, but really like the last few years defined our family values and what I think is important. And the number one that I'm going to talk about is just being present. So my daily habit that I try to, it's when I get home from work, like work is over. It's great because my wife does not do medicine. She doesn't really want to know about how the surgeries went, which I'm happy to not talk about. And we have kids, and like I just like try to just completely shut that down on the drive home and just chill out, and then get home and like totally switch modes and compartmentalize it. That may not be, I guess, healthy, super healthy if you're doing it the wrong way, but really focusing on being present in family time when it's family time, and like the same way for work. When you're at work, like you're present because that's what mode you're in. I think that's important and lets you build on everything else after that. I will say, I know if my wife is watching this, she's going to disagree because this podcast, as we spun it up, has taken a lot of my time, but just forced me to be more intentional with the time that I do have with family. But the goal is to compartmentalize my Bitcoin time into things like this so that it doesn't just linger around in every other stage
It's a constructive outlet, right?
Yeah. She's going to disagree. I know she is, and she's going to say, "You said this, but that's not how you're living." But
that's part of being a husband and a wife, though.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, it's progress, not perfection.
Yeah.
You gotta have a goal and move towards it, and being present. It all starts with being present. If nothing else happens if you aren't present.
Cool.
Insert that down the line. Our Bitcoin is doing so well.
Yeah. Your Bitcoin?
To the guy, your Bitcoin. Yeah.
All right. Any other topics we haven't talked about? We've talked about a lot. It's like an hour, and once we edit it, it's gonna be an hour and a half. But this has been good. I'm glad we did this.
Talk about like trajectory with the cycle and what we think is gonna happen.
Oh yeah, that can be our closing thoughts. Like, where do you think Bitcoin's going the rest of this year? Are cycles over? Do you believe in super cycles? And answer that, and then one thing you tell physicians that are just getting into the Bitcoin space.
The first thing, tell physicians just getting the Bitcoin space is do your own research.
Yeah. We didn't do not financial advice. We're gonna have to re-edit that back into the beginning.
I tell them all it's not financial advice. Do your own research, because if you don't develop your own conviction, it's like prescribing a pill to a patient. If they aren't going to take it, who cares?
Yeah.
And if you don't develop your own conviction, you will absolutely get killed in any trade, because you will absolutely buy at the top and sell at the bottom.
Yeah.
So no matter what you're going to get into, develop your own conviction. Take the time, develop your own conviction. That's number one. I tell anybody that's going to get into thinking about any investment, Bitcoin or whatever. But what the heck do I know? I sold the bottom in 2008. But my take from all the time I spent on these different podcasts and just listening to really experienced people is, I think in general the trend with Bitcoin is that the volatility is dampening down somewhat, as it would be expected, because the law of big numbers has gotten to be it's $1 trillion realized market cap. It's a big, and it takes a lot more to move it. So I expect less drastic cyclic, less big swings, less drastic cyclic behavior. There's still going to be some cycle to it, I think. But I think the drawdowns will be less, and I think also the upsides will tend to be less over time. I don't think it's going to be overnight this year, but I think definitely that's I think where we're heading. It's still going to be outperform everything else, I think. But I anticipate the swings will be. I experienced a 20+% drawdown right after I bought. In February or whatever, I bought it like just above 100, and it went down to 74 or something. So I guess a 25% drawdown. And thank the good Lord I developed my own conviction. I didn't sell at 74.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think hopefully it's going to not be quite as drastic a swings as I've heard about. And the one I've experienced is already painful enough.
Yeah.
Is that why you only have one chair?
Yeah, that's why I'm not even sitting in a chair. I'm squatting down on my knees.
That's right.
I sold my chair. I sold my chair in the last drawdown to buy more Bitcoin.
Dr. Adcock's got strong thighs.
He's sitting on a bucket.
That's right.
Advice to other physicians is find a medium that you can take in the content and do the work. It does take work. If you're a physician, you kind of are used to that. So shave off 5% of whatever time you commit to a hobby to learn something about your personal finances. And hopefully this is a good outlet, like a good source of info for you. If not, we're happy to recommend other ones that maybe you would relate with better. If I think the super cycle's over where we're at with Bitcoin, I think the rest of 2025 is going to be pretty interesting. Obviously, we just passed like the Genius Act and all these big political gains and political tailwinds. I think those are going to be good for the space. I'm interested to see what stablecoins do. I think it does increase the network effect, like what Jordy Visser says, but I don't think it really fixes the dollar. Like back to Safedeen's keynote from Vegas 25. It's been interesting to see how that plays out. There's always the discussion about halving cycles. I think halving cycles are really just a confounder for global liquidity cycles. Like the global liquidity market, even outside of Bitcoin, just gets over levered, and then there's a crash down, and then everyone recoups and restarts again. So I think those aren't going to go away, but I think the halving cycle, like you talked about, the volatility is going to dampen. So we're going to get drawdowns when everything else is melting down, but it won't be as severe as it was. I could be wrong. I mean, like the counter to that is like when gold got an ETF, it was up and to the right for 9 years, 7 or 9 years, I think.
Yeah.
So that's the counter, is that just the adoption and the ease of access kind of separates it from the global liquidity cycles. Time will tell. Like we talked about offline, our time horizon is so much longer that it doesn't really matter what happens in the next year or two.
Speak for yourself.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot of stuff on the horizon. I think we're politically in a lot better space, as a lot of people probably are aware. What do you think, Adam?
I got to piggyback off Jeff's last comment too. I think the cool thing, and I'll answer your question in a sec, Chris. The cool thing now is Saylor has created all these products through strategy that are 4 different time horizons, right? He's meeting them in the middle, as Jeff and the guys like to speak, and casting those fishing lures at different depths in the ocean. Like I got my 80-year-old grandfather into Strife, who wants more like a fixed income type product the other day. He's like, I can't stomach the volatility of Bitcoin. He's been looking at it since like 50,000, watching it go up and down. And I was like, well, why not just do Strife? That's like got a lot of the volatility stripped away and is fixed, 10% on principal income yield. And luckily he got in that and then watched it appreciate, go from 105 to 120 in 2 weeks. He's like, why is this fixed income product going up so much? And I'm like, it's because it's completely underpriced. The market hasn't figured out how low risk this is compared to traditional fiat fixed income products. And Saylor's, capitalizing on the $600 trillion bond market.
Yep.
So I think that's the neat thing, is there is a product for everyone, and this space is still so new. It's just going to continue to grow, and who knows where Saylor and all these guys' brains are going to take us in the next couple of years. The one thing I would say for the docs that are entering the space, a really interesting product that I like to do is like value things on a Bitcoin standard and my time. So like call shifts, I kind of alluded to this in one of our earlier episodes, but I used to take call shifts as a resident, moonlighting call shifts, and I would get paid $800 for 8 hours. So $100 an hour. At that time, Bitcoin was like 30,000 a coin. And so that call shift that I was taking as a resident, anesthesia resident, was worth like 0.04 Bitcoin at that time. I now take trauma call shifts as an attending. We make about 3,000 for 12 hours of that time. And at Bitcoin's price today of 118,000, I think that equates to like 0.024 the last time I did the math. So I'm living on a Bitcoin standard and doing that math. I actually made more money as a resident taking call for less hours compared to an attending today working more call and more hours.
Yep.
So that's wild to think about, when the salaries are obviously drastically different between resident and attending and working more hours. So that's what I would say, is just start to kind of do some of that math and think about what that means over the next couple of years for you and how much you value your time. And then the other question was like where we see this going. The more and more you get into it, it's just hard to imagine those drastic drawdowns and upswings, kind of like we talked about. But between Saylor and with strategy and the ETFs are buying 27,000 Bitcoin a week, and there's only 3,000 roughly mined each week. That's a 9-to-1 demand to supply, not including any of the other treasury companies, not including individuals. It's hard not to see like that this is just going to be kind of like a slow grind up. And if we look forward in 10 years and kind of look back, I wouldn't be surprised if like what you talked about with the gold ETFs, like it's just a slow grind up. So I think everybody needs to kind of position themselves where you have like your bag that you hold and you just like don't touch. Don't try to time the market. It's time in the market, not timing the market, right?
100%.
Because there's always a chance, and I know everybody has mentioned this every cycle, that it's a super cycle and it goes up. It's going up forever, Laura.
It's different this time.
I'm not saying that necessarily, but we've never had this many catalysts all at once, and it's been so institutionalized, and you've got all these treasury companies starting to come out, and those could very well be that, the thing that one of these bigger ones implodes and that causes the next
I think
bear market.
what's not different is global liquidity cycles, which are a real thing that Bitcoiners don't always understand. But I think if you acknowledge that that's a real thing and listen to people, intelligent people talk about it, like Bitcoin is just has experienced global liquidity cycles along with everyone else, and it happens line up with elections and with the halving.
It's almost like
but Bitcoin's at a much more mature life stage than it has been in the past, like to what you just alluded to. So I think it has to look different, but that doesn't mean the. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I have it on good opinion that winter is not coming.
I heard that too. A smart guy told me that.
That's another thing when I'm orange pilling some of the older guys I like to bring up is that they're like, oh, the government's going to ban it. And I'm like, this is the most asymmetric bet in Bitcoin's lifetime. Like it is the lowest risk it's ever been now compared to the past. If you were buying in like 2015 when it's only been around for a couple of years, yes, I get the risk and I get that they're worried about banning it, Silk Road, all that kind of stuff. Now you have governments, corporations buying it, right? We have a strategic reserve. We have crypto law that's just been enacted. Like the asymmetric part of this bet is like the risk has been stripped away. I think there's a lot of potential going forward that you need to take advantage of.
Yeah. I think we're going higher.
We need a green sign, an orange sign.
Yeah.
We need to change it up.
So
Orange
should I sell my XRP?
I think it's a good time.
That's Chris and I.
We're going to have another. This is volume 1 of multiple, I think, of these conversations we're going to have, like these three of us. We're going to have to come back maybe after strategy earnings and talk about strategy, have like a deep dive on strategy, because I know we're all really interested in that company and that trade. We didn't even talk about all the medicine stuff we want to talk about, and we're going to be almost 2 hours.
Talk for hours about this. I think that's part of the reason we want everybody else to have kind of like a community where it's safe to talk about this kind of stuff, and we're all educating each other, right? At its core, all the Bitcoiners have like this. We want to improve everyone around us.
That's what we're doing right now. We're doing talk therapy right now. No, it is important. I agree with you 100%, Adam. It is super important to develop a group of like-minded people to share this journey with.
But this is like, we talked about this in like episode 1. Like these are conversations we would have been having, and this is half of our Bitcoin meetup of docs that we do, and this is the same conversations we have. So it's cool to just sit down and record with you guys. Thank you guys for coming on.
Yeah,
Dad, thanks for.
I'm an old guy, and I never thought I would do this.
Yeah, you're a podcaster now. Add it to your CV.
It's like we gotta have the reverse.
Very scary.
The reverse meme, Chris, is like your dad on the computer and you walking in and you're like, are you having fun, Dad? Are you winning, Dad? And it's your dad
doing a podcast.
Yeah.
It's like make sure
I told my buddies at the rifle range this morning I was going to go home and do a podcast with my son. They said, "What's that?"
There you go. See, you're so
it's
young
like,
at heart, Jeff.
A few years ago, it's like make sure that your grandparents aren't going to CVS and buying gift cards to send to scammers. Now it's like make sure your grandparents aren't sitting on Bitcoin podcasts.
That's right. Gotta watch out for those. It's the new Nigerian prince.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
Okay.
This is wrapping up episode 3. If you watched this long, seriously, thank you. Share it with someone you care about. Like, subscribe, all the things.
Yeah,
I'm
not financial advice.
This is our not financial advice slide.
Financial entertainment.
We all work for different people, and this is not their opinion.
You might want to put that on the front end.
I know. I'm going to have to edit it and go back.
There's a reason all these docs need medicine. And I think the cool thing about this one is that Jeff has already lived that life and has tried to show you, like, he still needed this way out.
Yep.
Right. And luckily he's found it, because there are a lot of people that don't. So I think
more than anybody else. But you need to ask Tim Kotzman if you can use his blurb for your not financial advice.
Yeah.
Next time I meet him.
I'm an old guy, old, young, everybody in between needs honest money.
Yep. We all need it. All right. It's going higher.
Okay.
Have a good rest of your weekend.
Okay. You guys.